My name is Paula, and at 33 years old, when my parents retired, they gave the company to my brother, said women aren't built for leadership. So I smiled and backed off. 3 months later, I brought someone to dinner. My brother dropped his wine glass. My mom started crying. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. It was the kind of dinner where everything looked perfect at first glance. The table was set with Mom's special occasion china. The wine glasses sparkled under the chandelier. Even the mashed potatoes looked like they'd been shaped with a mold. My dad had shaved. My brother wore a blazer. And I showed up with a guest, a man you think I'd brought home a unicorn. The moment we walked in, my mom's eyes lit up, like she'd just witnessed divine intervention. Well, look at you, she said, kissing both my cheeks and pretending she hadn't spent the last decade, reminding me I was married to my work. My dad gave a short nod, finally brought someone around. Huh, I smiled, said nothing. Let the assumptions roll in like fog. Emily, the cousin who always wore pearls, and asked why I didn't soften my look, leaned across the table later and whispered, "Is he your boyfriend? He's very clean cut." I smiled again, something like that. They all laughed, sipped their wine, and mentally penciled in a wedding date. I never agreed to my brother. Thomas raised his glass midway through dinner and gave the same speech he always did, when he thought the spotlight wasn't bright. Enough something about legacy sacrifice, carrying on the family name, the company. Had been in our family for 3 generations, and now it was his turn to lead. He thanked our parents for trusting him, thanked the guests for believing in him. I thanked God for giving him the strength to take this on. He did not thank me or even look at me. I poured myself more wine. Next to me, my guest stayed perfectly quiet, polite, observant, the only one at the table who wasn't pretending this wasn't about to become the most memorable meal of their lives. 3 months ago, I found out they'd signed everything over to Thomas. The company, the voting shares, the title, the authority. After 15 years of working side by side with my father, managing operations, running logistics, cleaning up messes Thomas created, they gave him everything and gave me a smile and a vague, "You'll always have a place here, a place like a couch cushion or a spare chair." They sat me down in the living room, like they were breaking sad news to a loyal pet. "It's not that you're not capable," my mom had said, reaching for my hand like she was afraid I'd faint. "It's just women aren't built for this kind of pressure. We didn't want to burden you. Your brother," my dad added, "has that leadership instinct. He's decisive," which was one way of saying he guesses and hopes for the best. I asked if they were serious. My dad nodded like he was signing a peace treaty. My mom just said, "You'll make an excellent support system. Behind every great man." She trailed off like it was supposed to be comforting. I smiled. Then I went home and started making arrangements. Back at dinner, my mother leaned in and gave me a knowing look. "He's very handsome," she whispered, nodding toward my guest. "Is he in finance? You know, with your brother running things now, it's probably a good time to start thinking about next steps for yourself. You could still have a family." I blinked a family. She beamed. "You've always wanted kids, right?" I hadn't, not particularly, but apparently what I wanted was irrelevant, as usual. Thomas was laughing with 2 of the board members, who had shown up for the free steak and photo ops. One of them asked how it felt to be the man of the hour. He grinned. "I've been preparing for this since I was a kid. Dad always said I had the natural instincts for it." Natural instincts, right? Like the instinct to blame me for missing quarterly goals after spending the entire quarter playing golf and calling it networking. I took a slow sip of my wine. They were all smiling, comfortable in their delusions, congratulating themselves for making the smart choice. Dad leaned back in his chair, watching Thomas with pride, like he'd personally carved him out of oak and ambition. They had no idea what I'd brought with me, who I'd brought with me, but they would. By the time dessert arrived, the air was thick with self-satisfaction. The cake was a 3-tiered monstrosity, with the company logo piped in gold icing. My mother actually clapped when they brought it out. "You've really made us proud, Thomas," she said, raising her glass. I tilted my head, yes. So much pride in this room. Thomas grinned at me like I was finally falling in line. I know it's not what you expected, he said, the tiniest smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. But you're going to love what we've got planned for you. Marketing's perfect for someone with people skills. I held his gaze right, because nothing says vision, like slogans and color palettes. He laughed, assuming I was joking. Everyone laughed with him, everyone except the man sitting next to me. I glanced around the table, at the faces I had known my whole life, my parents smug and satisfied, my brother soaking in praise like a sponge in gravy, aunts and uncles toasting the next generation, and me, the dutiful daughter, smiling politely, just as expected. If only they knew. If they had any idea who the man beside me really was. If they knew what I'd found in those documents, what I'd confirmed, piece by piece over 3 long months. I'd imagine this night 100 different ways. The silence, the gasps, the outrage, the shattered version of the perfect family portrait they'd spent years trying to frame. They had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out. When I was 6, I told my parents I wanted to take karate. My dad blinked at me, like I just told him I wanted to join the Navy. He glanced at my mom, then laughed. You mean ballet, sweetheart? I didn't, but I ended up in ballet anyway. Pink tutu slippers. The whole thing. I cried after every class. They said I was being difficult dramatic. Eventually, I stopped crying and just went quiet. When I was 8, my brother got a remote-controlled car. I got a tea set when I was 10. He got a toolkit. I got a baking set when I was 12. I told my dad I wanted to run a company like him. One day he looked up from his newspaper and said, "That's sweet, but you'll have your hands full with kids by then." My mom smiled like it was a compliment. "You'll make a lovely wife." I remember nodding, smiling. Back then, I went to my room, closed the door, and cried until I fell asleep. That was the year I wished I was a boy. Actually wished it. Like close my eyes and make it happen. Kind of wish I thought maybe then they'd see me. Listen to me, be proud of me instead. I was the polite one, the helper. The one who cleaned up after the messes. The one who didn't take up too much space. My brother, he was the natural leader, which in our house meant he was loud, messy, and always right, even when he wasn't. By the time I was a teenager, I had stopped asking for things. No more karate, no more business books, just ballet and baking and smiling on cue. They bought Thomas a telescope. When he said he liked space once, I got a diary after I won a math competition. A diary because, girls have feelings, not futures. I kept thinking maybe if I worked harder, they'd see me, so I worked. I studied, I got top grades, fixed things quietly when they broke. At 14, I stayed up late organizing my dad's home office. Because he was stressed, he barely noticed. Thomas got praised for trying. After spilling coffee on a spreadsheet, I won a regional debate competition at 15. My mom asked if I'd consider going into teaching. It's such a nurturing job. She said Thomas once argued with a waiter about a salad and got called assertive, and still, I told myself maybe I just wasn't enough. Maybe if I smiled more, maybe if I didn't correct them, maybe if I played my role better, they'd finally say you're good at this. They never did. Things started to shift around. My last year of high school, I had a friend named Kayla Smart. Funny bold. Her dad ran a small business. Her mom was an engineer. Kayla played soccer, did martial arts or whatever she wanted. Her parents cheered. When she said she wanted to run her own company, one day bought her business cards for Christmas. The first time I went to her house and saw how different it could be, I almost couldn't believe it. I remember walking home that night with this strange, heavy feeling in my chest. Not sadness, not anger, just realization. It wasn't my gender that was holding me back. It was my parents. Their voices had become the ones in my head, the ones telling me to shrink, to stay quiet, to make things easier for everyone else. So I stopped listening, not all at once, but piece by piece, I joined the school's business club. Secretly at first, then proudly. I started saving money, researching programs, reading case studies at night, while my parents thought I was planning my future. Wedding, they still didn't see it, or maybe they refused to at graduation. I gave a speech as valedictorian. My dad told me afterward that was really lovely. You should write something for your brother's next event. In college, I majored in business and joined every leadership program I could find. I interned, networked, learned how things really worked, and when I came home for breaks, I smiled, nodded, and let them keep thinking I was just helping out around the office. They never asked what I really did, never asked what I wanted. My brother told everyone I was into admin stuff, like I got excited over spreadsheets. I said nothing because deep down, I still thought maybe if I just keep showing them, they'll come around, maybe they'll finally say I'm ready, maybe they'll finally see me. Then came the day they called a family meeting. We were all seated in the living room, cookies on the table, champagne, chilling. The mood was weirdly formal. That's when they told us they were retiring, that the company was ready to be passed down to Thomas. Just him, not a partnership, not shared leadership, not even a courtesy mention of me to him. My father said it, like it was the most obvious choice in the world. He's the natural fit. My mom nodded. You've always been so good at helping. You'll still be a part of things, sweetheart. They offered me a bonus check and said, I'd always have a place like a stool in the break room. I didn't cry this time, I didn't argue. I smiled, said thank you, walked out of that room like I hadn't just been erased again. But something in me, something quiet and deep, shifted. I didn't feel invisible anymore. I felt done a few days later. While sorting through some handover files, I found something strange, a folder that didn't belong there, a document that didn't add up. At first, I thought it was just another one of Thomas's mistakes, but the more I looked, the worse it got. I saw things I wasn't meant to see, things no one had told me, things that, if true, could change everything. I didn't scream. I didn't storm into anyone's office. I took a picture, then I made some calls. Let them think I walked away. Let them believe I accepted it, because soon they'd realize something they never saw coming. The girl they pushed aside. She was done waiting to be picked. My brother was halfway through yet another story about how he rescued the brand's reputation. After messing up a client deal, when Mark opened his briefcase, he pulled out a slim folder quietly. No drama, just slid it onto the table like it was a menu. I didn't look at it. I didn't have to. My parents were still sipping wine, basking in the glow of their perfect evening. The celebration of legacy, as they called it, legacy, apparently meant handing the family business over to the least responsible person in the room. My mother raised her glass to Thomas, she said, and to strong leadership. I tapped my glass against hers and smiled. Strong is definitely one word for it. Mark spoke calmly as if he was just clearing his throat. Before dessert, I'd like to share something. Everyone turned. Thomas squinted. Wait, who are you again? Mark offered his hand. Mark Delaney, forensic accountant. That silenced the entire table. My dad blinked. You're a what? Mark stayed polite. I was hired to conduct an internal investigation on financial irregularities within the company. The table went still. Thomas let out a laugh. Tight forced. This is a joke, right? I finally spoke. Nope. No punchline unless you count your accounting. Mark opened the folder, passed 2 copies forward, one to my dad, one to my mom. Thomas snatched the third. At first he flipped through the pages, like they were homework he forgot to do. Then he froze. My mom leaned in to read over his shoulder. Her smile vanished. My dad looked at the numbers. His face didn't change at first, but his knuckles turned white, where they gripped the tablecloth. Mark's voice was calm. These reports include evidence of unauthorized withdrawals, falsified vendor invoices, and transfers into personal accounts. Some of those funds came directly from the company. Others he looked at. My parents came from your retirement fund. My mother gasped. Thomas stood up. I didn't steal anything. My dad's voice was sharp. Sit down. Thomas did, like a kid who'd just been sent to the principal's office. You said you stopped gambling. My mom said, her voice cracked. I did. Mostly I had everything under control. You took our retirement money. My dad asked, his voice low. It wasn't like that I was going to fix it. How? I asked, with magic or monopoly money. Thomas turned to me red-faced. You had no right. You brought this guy to dinner. You couldn't have handled this privately. I could have, I said. But I wanted everyone to see what happens when you give power to someone, just because he was born with the right plumbing. My dad stood up. You ambushed us. Oh, I'm sorry. I said, was I supposed to wait for you to call on me, like I've been doing for the last 20 years? The shouting started. My mom said I'd humiliated the family. My dad said I'd blindsided them on purpose. Thomas tried to act like the victim, said I'd manipulated them, said I only cared about revenge. I cared about the company. I said about the clients, the employees, the legacy you're so obsessed with. You should have come to us first, my mom said. And what? I asked, gotten a pat on the head and a slice of cake. You wouldn't have believed me. You never do. They didn't deny it. That hurt more than I expected. By the time dessert was served, no one touched it. Mark excused himself professionally. No drama, just walked out the front door and left me sitting there in the mess. My dad turned to the rest of the table. Party's over, everyone out. Within 5 minutes, the dining room was empty. Plates half full, glasses smudged. Cake untouched. The family celebration was dead. Thomas stormed out the back. No apology, no explanation. My mom sat at the table with her face in her hands. My dad stared at the ceiling like it had answers me. I sat there quietly, watching them finally realize what I'd known all along. They'd bet on the wrong child, the morning after the dinner. No one said a word, not a call, not a message, not a knock on my door. Just silence, you'd think, after everything. Someone would reach out, maybe to scream, maybe to cry, maybe to say, "Thank you for stopping the company from falling apart." But no, nothing. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that means, something's about to explode. We've spoken with the legal team. Your father and I have decided to press charges. She didn't mention Thomas by name. We're doing what needs to be done. I sat there listening with my phone in my lap, heart racing, and felt something strange. Hope not because I wanted to see my brother in jail, but because for once it felt like they were seeing him. Clearly the charges didn't last long. 2 weeks to be exact, then another voicemail. This one was quieter, sadder. We've changed our minds. He's still our son. He's agreed to therapy. He's going to get help. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just another quiet reminder that he would always get another chance. They didn't ask for my opinion. They didn't ask for help. What they did do was ask Mark to send them a copy of the full report, the one I'd already read cover to cover. They wanted to know how bad it really was. The answer, bad enough. Thomas had drained nearly $500,000, some from company accounts, the rest from the retirement fund. He was supposed to help manage. My parents had trusted him with their future. He spent it on online poker and sports bets. And yet somehow I was still the problem. When I bumped into my mother at the grocery store, a few days later she didn't say hi. She just looked at me, then looked away. I stood there for a moment waiting, hoping maybe she'd say something. He didn't, so I kept walking. Thomas went to therapy. At least that's what they said. He got a job somewhere else. Junior management at a friend's company. Supposed to help him rebuild. He was also ordered to pay back everything. Every cent, not to me. To my parents. They didn't want the company reputation ruined, so they agreed to settle everything quietly. Clean up the mess, bury the headlines. I heard through someone on the board that he was lucky, that if I'd pushed harder, he could have done real time. I hadn't pushed, not because I felt sorry for him, but because I was done, wasting energy on people who never saw me. Weeks passed. The company carried on. Staggered but standing, and then came the next twist. I got a call from my dad. He didn't say hello, just we need to talk about the business. I didn't say much, just waited. Eventually, he said the thing I'd always wanted to hear, but somehow it landed flat. You were right, we should have seen it sooner. You were keeping this place together for years. I didn't thank him, instead I asked. So what now? There was a pause. Then he cleared his throat. We're thinking of bringing someone in, a professional CEO, someone from outside. I blinked seriously. We just think it would be simpler, because giving it to your daughter would be too complicated. It's not about that, isn't it? He was quiet again, and that was my answer. That night, I typed up my resignation. No drama, no explanation, just a short email after 15 years. I was done. I thought it would hurt more. It didn't, in fact. It felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I just closed the laptop and poured myself a glass of wine. 2 months later, I started a new job. High-level strategy, better salary, better hours. No glass ceiling hanging over my head like a chandelier, waiting to drop during the interview. The CEO asked why I'd left the family business. I smiled, family reasons. She laughed. We all have those. My parents didn't call. Thomas definitely didn't. But I didn't need them to. For the first time in my life. I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't waiting to be picked. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just living my life. Finally, without asking permission. Sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if they'd chosen me first? If they'd believed in me the way they believed in him? If they'd handed me the keys instead of the crumbs? But then I remember I don't need their crown. I built my own. They gave him everything and he burned it down. They gave me nothing, and I still rose, not for revenge, not for praise, just because I could, and if that makes me the villain, in their version of the story. So be it, at least I'm finally living mine. Subscribe for more stories like this, and if you've ever been the overlooked one, tell me how you turned it around.